Welcome to Subtle Propaganda. I'm Drew, coming to you live from the volcano that will one day destroy us all. Joining me is Three Circles Mike, who has no idea what a Venn diagram is, Integrity Joe, who's late in light, and Rob. We will be talking about pop culture, world news, politics, military culture, fight videos, and the general state of the union. Are we charlatans? I don't know. You decide. Oh, and remember, like, subscribe, and share this podcast with your friends, and don't forget to tell us how wrong we were in the comments.
Happy New Year, everybody. What's going on? Live.
What's up, man?
Yo, Happy New Year.
What's up?
You know,
Happy New Year to everybody.
it's 2021, bro.
Yeah,
famous
let's hope it's a better
2020's
year
over.
than 2020, man. Jesus.
I know, man.
Unfortunately, regardless of where you fall in the political aisle, 2020 is not going to magically go away because it's now 2021. Still sucks. We're all still trapped in our homes.
The pandemic's not going to just magically disappear overnight because it's 2021 now. You know?
Yeah.
That's what I'm hoping for, man. But yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to have a normal summer. That'd be amazing.
Right, exactly.
Go outside and have fun with my friends again. Like, that'd be awesome.
I want to go to the beach.
Especially now, because, like, I don't know about you guys, but in Illinois, here in the Chicago area, like, the weather's still starting to really turn. Like, for the winter, like, we just had really bad, like, sleet storms. So it'll get, like, really cold, and then it'll warm up to where it'll start snowing, and the snow turns into rain, and that turns back into snow, so then it just all freezes, and it's just, like, it's a mess. It's a disaster. It's like you can't even really, you can't even, like, really do anything, because, like, anything that hasn't either been, like, cleared with a snowblower or shovel or iced or anything like that, it's a death trap, like, walking on it.
You need one of those Elon Musk flamethrowers, dude.
Yeah.
we're getting.
Dude.
Did you see that video? The dude that was doing that on his driveway that went viral? That was pretty awesome.
It's so awesome, man. I don't know
smart,
how
not
that
hard.
guy had them, dude. So, because he only made a couple thousand of them or something, right? And they instantly sold out or whatever. So, lucky guy.
Money generating machine.
We're getting that now, Drew. It's been like sleeting and snowing, rainy all day today. Like, Bandit went out to go to the bathroom and just slid across the deck because it was all just like the black ice sleet.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, we're getting that now, but like all week it's been like 40s. Like, it doesn't even feel like it's wintertime, you know? Like, it was like 45 Wednesday morning and then dropped down to like 30s and went from raining to hailing to like sleeting and then back warm again.
Yeah.
So it's just like literally the Midwest is just like death trap.
I always feel so bad for my poor dog because I'll put boots on her when I take her for a walk, because when people salt their driveway, it's bad for their pads if they get it on them. But like the problem is when this happens is when she's wearing her boots, like it just there's no traction whatsoever, so she's just like a mess out there with like all four paws just sliding in a different direction. I feel so bad for her. She's looking at me like it's miserable. I'm sorry, Abby. I'm just trying to help. We'll go back now.
Yeah. Yeah, Bandit always wants to play with Frisbee outside, and I was like, no, it's all icy and frozen, and as soon as he ran outside and tried to go up the stairs, he just started slipping everywhere. We're good. But they don't care. They just want to play, you know?
Right. Yeah. Well,
I don't know if it's global warming for me or what, bro, but we get like the most mild winters ever. Like since I've lived here, there's only been like 2 snows. And I remember when I was a kid, man, like it used to like pound this area, you know what I mean? Like I remember the only reason why I feel like I remember, maybe, you know, memory's not that useful, but I feel like I remember getting tons of snow days as a kid. And nowadays it doesn't snow ever. You know what I mean? So it's like I don't know. I just find it interesting that we never ever get like really bad inclement weather
over here. We just got like a good 6 inches over here, man. It was we just went skiing up on Tuesday. It was fun. So
nice.
But it was dumping over in Tahoe and stuff like that, all in the Olympic Pacific Northwest and stuff like that. Skiing's really good up there right now. So
yeah, I'm trying to get to Vermont
Snow Bowl.
Go shred.
It's weird. It's not snowed here at all. This is like the first winter that it hasn't snowed at all here. Like today's the first day it's actually snowing at all, and it's January. Like it's really weird because we always had snow days. Or my favorite is when the pipes burst at school and then they have to cancel school because when the lines freeze overnight, every single year they burst at some point and it gives you like 2 days off school. And this time it never got cold enough ever.
Dude,
like I've only worn my winter jacket twice. Like,
what is wrong with a school? To put in insulated pipes or PVC pipes.
I was gonna say, I'm like, don't they make something to fix that? I mean, like that seems kind of like avoidable. Like you know, it gets cold every year, right? Like it's like
maybe they're going with maybe they're just going with fix it as it breaks strategy, right? Instead of just doing it all at one time. As it breaks, they'll just piece by piece fix it every year, and then after the next 20 years, it'll finally get fixed when there's something new and better out, and then they start it over again. But
it's terrible, man. But yeah, I as beyond the small chit chat from the weather, I figured maybe we could do a little year in review, talk about some games. I think we talked about Cyberpunk a ton last time, so I figure we might do a little. Here's some positives, maybe a little bit more than some negatives.
Yeah, we were all stuck in our houses, so we all had time to crush video games and watch television and shitty Netflix movies.
Yep. So. Yeah, let's do best worst of games, movies, or shows you watched. Joe, you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. I'll go. So I guess the number one show that everybody has to start out with is Yellowstone. So I don't know if anybody else watched it, but I'm not a big TV show guy.
Dude, I didn't watch it, bro. I lived it.
Dude, that's right. But yeah, so that was definitely on the better, you know, that was on the best. I think is it
good? I don't know anything about it. I just know I just tell people that I work at Yellowstone, and all they tell me is like, "Do you watch that show Yellowstone?" And I'm just like, "Yeah, I don't even know what that is."
Dude, I'm sure so many people came up to was just because of that fucking show. Yeah, like everybody talked about it. Like when we were up in Montana this summer, it was like the hot topic. Like, what episode you on? You know, and it was definitely like it felt like the white girl kind of like show. You know, the basic show.
I remember it being super popular.
Yeah, pretty much.
They do.
It's a super volcano that'll end the world one day.
At least as long as they're honest about it, right? Like it's not all beauty.
I don't think they even bring that up at all during the series.
Oh, they don't?
So,
yeah.
No. It has little to do with the actual like park and stuff like that, but more to do with Kevin Costner and Rand. You know, the local natives. You can't say Indians anymore.
Yeah, I remember seeing a lot of stuff about that.
Yeah, but it was good. It was definitely, like I said, I'm not a series kind of guy. I don't watch a lot of TV or like something like that. Like the only other series, like I said in our pre-chat, I was watching World War II in color and like the famous battles of World War II and stuff, and doing a lot of history. I definitely can dig on those throughout the year, you know. But yeah, for that was definitely some good ones. Some good movies though too. Did you guys watch Palm Springs with Andy Samberg? It was
No.
on Netflix,
It was on
or maybe it's
Netflix?
on Hulu. I got the yeah,
I think
maybe
that's a
Hulu actually.
So
Yes,
gotta have
yeah, I think
Hulu
it
for
is
that one,
Hulu.
folks.
But that was a pretty good one. You know, like I like Andy Samberg. I haven't seen him in a while. You know, since like the Hot Rod days and stuff like that. But
Hot
I
Rod.
mean, it's a movie about one of the classics. So, but essentially, what the movie is about is it's Andy Samberg, and he went down this tunnel, and he every day he wakes up and it's Groundhog's Day. You know, it's almost like Groundhog's Day with Bill Murray. You know, and then somehow another lady friend gets involved with them, and it's them getting out of it and this and that, or staying in it. So not too bad. I like that one.
So much like the Joker, they just ripped off another movie.
Yeah,
Damn,
pretty
the
much.
hate-
It's the
the
newer version of Groundhog's Day for sure. So
Yeah, what do you guys
Uh,
not to derail you, Joe, but just real quick, like what do you guys think
no,
that comes from? Like why is Hollywood just so unoriginal lately? I don't know, maybe I'm being a little hyperbolic, but I just feel like all they can
No.
do is remakes. That's it.
I mean they just did it again, right? I mean, it's the year of remakes, I guess.
Yeah.
Dude, I think it's the same. I think it's the same way video games are doing it, right? They're just copying. It's like, why do I have to be creative when people are so desperate for something that they'll pay my ridiculous fee to watch it and to tell me how bad it is, but they're still going to pay for it and watch it. It's a lot of way with video games. They don't really care that the content's not really that good or original because they're still producing something that you're going to pay the same amount of money for if it was the best new original thing out there. So I was wondering that too, and I was thinking maybe it's like the spinoff of the video game industry. They just don't have anything new to bring up, so they're just like remaking stuff in the meantime, and everybody's buying it. So why would you change it? Drew, you might have more insight on that, but that's just my opinion.
No, I was just gonna give you. I think what it is it's for whatever reason they are really big on trying to capture that nostalgic feeling that a lot of. So they're essentially trying to cash in on the same they've already had success with multiple times, and they just don't want to take a risk. They don't because now Hollywood has gotten so out of control, especially with these movies, where it's insane that we have set a marker to where you have to have your movie or your film franchise or whatever it is has to make $1 billion with each installation in order for it to be considered a success. Which that's an insane bar to try to that's an insane benchmark for all of these things to try to entertain. And for example, I was listening to a podcast when they were talking about a David Fincher movie, Seven. I'm sure most of you guys have probably seen it. And they made Seven for $34 million, and it made over 300 million. So I mean, those movies just aren't made anymore.
Right.
Those movies, and the other thing is that's a really dark movie. It's a unique IP. Studios just don't take chances anymore. If they're gonna sink a lot of money into something, they want to use something that people either know or that they knew was something earlier that was successful, and that for whatever reason Hollywood has just been hammering that into the ground because they just don't want to take chances on things that suck.
Yeah, I get it with the with kids movies, right? There's always going to be remakes of kids movies since movies started being made, right? So I get that. But yeah, just I don't know, the whole the remakes. I'm trying to think of a couple right now. I can't think of one that pops right into my head as a clear-cut example right this second, but yeah, they just I feel like they are remaking adult movies that just don't need to be remade.
Lion King, right? Didn't they remake that?
King, Mulan, Lady or Beauty and the Beast, they're literally carbon copies of animated versions done in live action, and it's just why? Everyone's and then I talk to people that watch it, and they're it's good. I'm I know it's good. I saw the animated version. I don't need to see the new I just don't get it. Yeah, it's
I wonder what happens at the end of it, guys. I've never seen this before.
It's like when people tell me the Han Solo movie was good. I'm oh, it was good? Go ahead. Tell me, what was that movie about?
That's a good example.
They had to go get the thing, really right? Example. You had to go get the thing. They were in space and they're flying, and he had to go get the thing. yeah, you can't give me the story of what Han Solo was. It sucked. You don't remember it. But you're like, oh, these are all the things I know about it, and like I love that universe. So
Yeah, that is a good point with it's hard to take a risk, right? Because there's so much CGI, so much money that goes into it, and like one really really bad movie could really fuck up or really kind of ruin their bottom line, I guess. Like overall, if you have like one really bad flop, like I don't know how much that would set them back, but could imagine it would
I
be
think it
pretty
happens all the
detrimental.
time. I think it happens all the time. I mean, there's like, how hard is it to make like shit like Napoleon Dynamite, which was like a super low budget, completely novel
Exactly.
film. Like no one expected that to come out. And that thing was like probably made 30x or 50x what it cost to make
yeah.
or something like that. It was something absurd. And so, dude, those are fucking. You're never gonna see those being made, man. That's so rare. So, because like you said, it has to be low budget to take the risk. You know what I mean? I remember reading about Tarantino trying to get the script for Pulp Fiction off the ground, and like no one would take him. No one. And finally, the people who did, you know, they basically made a cult classic. You know, so it's like, and that stuff I think was completely novel. No one was shooting movies like that. Correct me if I'm wrong, Drew. I think you probably have a little bit better understanding on this, but like I don't think anyone was shooting movies like that, where you're getting the ending in the beginning and the middle in the, you know, end and the end, or the beginning and the middle, you know, like that.
Yeah, it's like it's definitely the trope that Tarantino's been known for in film. It's become more popular over time. But you know, the one place you do see that all the time, it's slowly starting to creep into film media, but like it's you see it in comic books all the time. It's like it's my favorite trope. I whenever I talk about it, I'm like I will lead what the story is, but it's like, but how did we get here? And I'm like, let's go back. Like that's what it is. Like that's like when I did my personal statement for like medical school, I did that. I used that trope. It was like, this is where I'm at. Like I'm like in the middle of like an Afghanistan story, and it's like, how did I get here? And it's like, let's go back. Come here on this journey with me. We're gonna find out how we got here. And
I just looked it up.
It's like
Hook,
a trick
line, and sinker.
yeah, like it works for it's just like so everyone loves like Yoda and Baby Yoda, right? Like just because Yoda or Baby Yoda, or I should say Grogu, is an effigy that looks like Yoda, but that the whole character design of Yoda is a trope. So that super old wise master and the backwards speak. So that backwards speak is a literary trope. So if you want somebody to seem like they're wise beyond their years and be likable by an audience, you have them speak in that manner. It's like that's a trope you'll see like through all different types of novels, like the wise old mentor.
Gotcha. I just looked up Napoleon Dynamite, how much they cost to make it, how much they grossed. It's crazy. Anyone want to take a guess at how much it cost them to make Napoleon Dynamite?
$10 million.
I was gonna say it's
under $1 million.
I was gonna say it's under $1 million.
I was gonna go in between. I was gonna say 5
million.
Yeah, 5 million is what I was gonna go with.
400,000.
Oh my
god! Yeah. How much?
And then 44.5 million.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, dude, that is.
Wow.
I said between 30 and 50x. That's like 100x.
Yes, 100 times.
That's
it's money,
crazy.
Man. That's amazing.
It's really good. But
it's like same thing with Blair Witch, right?
Oh, dude, I don't even know.
Yeah, Blair Witch was
Blair Witch. Ugh, that was the worst.
Yeah,
I hated it. Dude.
Not a good movie, but same thing. It was just someone running around with the camera, you know, and then next thing you know, 44 million deep.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, take a look at like something like what? Did you guys see Wonder Woman 84? Like,
I was gonna be. Bro. I didn't have like a positive movie that I'd recommend, but I sure did have one I would not recommend, and that's it.
Samesies. Like number one, would not recommend.
Yeah.
Steve Trevor 1984. I mean Wonder Woman 1984, because Wonder Woman is a horrible person in this movie, and Steve Trevor is actually the hero. Yeah, she doesn't want to save anybody. She doesn't want anybody to know that she doesn't want to do too much. She doesn't want anybody to know that she's a hero, because, you know, DC is real smart, and, you know, they plan things out. So we can't have Wonder Woman be a hero in 1984 because we have Batman versus, you know, this literary, or this this magical movie called Batman versus Superman. So we can't have her do anything major before then, like in the timeline, or else it doesn't make sense.
Well, dude, and for anybody that's listening, this is a spoiler alert, so you can go ahead and mute this if you.
Dude,
if
there's
you weren't
nothing
interested.
to spoil in this movie because there's no
Yeah,
spoilers,
seriously.
'cause nothing happened.
I turned it off
learns to
halfway.
fly.
But dude,
I
so like
spoiled it.
the whole thing in the beginning, right, where they're doing this like Olympic show of strength, right? Like they're going through that course and running, riding horses, and it was like cool cinematography. I'm like, okay, this
Shot
kinda,
well.
You shot well. You got me. I'm paying attention now. It had nothing to do with the rest of the movie. It never came back up. Like the whole, yeah, it literally just went away. It was the weirdest thing,
Dude, what about the scene where they're in Washington D.C. and this is like after her boyfriend like fucking disappears because he's like, I gotta go. He's like, you gotta give up. You can't stop losing your powers, Diana. And she gets so mad, she like lassos around Big Ben or like a watchtower, flies up into the air like. Lassos on an airplane and is like flying through the air, flies for hours, and then just comes back into her apartment. Like that movie was so poorly edited, the editor fucked up and edited scenes out of order to where it was like this long. It's like the scene where she learns to fly. She flies for hours and just goes back to her apartment to get a suit of armor. What?
None of it added up, man. It was, and there was a lot of woke culture shit in it too, which like. That stuff just stands out to me like a sore thumb every time I watch a movie. So a lot of woke shit in it. Which
right. Wonder Woman only saves women, doesn't save men.
Yeah, and I mean I'm all good with like superhero women and like all that. Like who isn't? Like we all grew up on that kind of stuff. Like Wonder Woman's been a character for a long time, dude. Like 70 years or something. Like so like no, I don't think that like I'm coming from a perspective of like misogyny or something like that. But it's like, dude, there were just some moments in the film where it's like, all right, dude, like I get what you're putting down on this. Like you don't have to push the woke shit so hard, man.
Well, the story doesn't even make sense. You already did the Steve Trevor thing. We all saw Wonder Woman 1. It was a great movie. The ending sucks. We all know it. The third act was terrible. Fine, fair enough. Endings are hard. I'll give you a pass on your first one. Endings are hard. I get it. But like, dude, you already did it. She found Steve Trevor. Steve Trevor was her tether to humanity, taught her like, brought her out of like this world that she'd been like this fantasy world, literal fantasy world that she'd been living in, introduced her to the world, showed her how like, how to like relate to human beings, like why we're important, why she wants to be our protector, all this stuff. And you're just going to hit that bell. You're just going to keep ringing that bell for all it's worth. Just go back to that well again. Just keep going. We can't come up with any creativity here in Hollywood. And here's the most atrocious thing about it is that movie was written by Patty Jenkins was the director. She wrote that movie, but she also wrote it with Jeff Johns. And if anybody knows anything about like comic books, Jeff Johns is like a titan in the industry. Like he's literally one of the best writers in comics. And
how does that happen? Did they just put so much pressure on him that he loses all creative control?
Yeah, I think
like
that's got to be what it is because, well, he's actually kind of like his story writing's kind of gotten worse as his career's kind of gone on.
Is he super old now, or I don't know anything about him?
It's not that he's old. He's older now. He's not like he's in his 40s, I think. But it's just he at one point was in the position that Kevin Feige is essentially for Marvel, where he's trying to like basically bring all of the comic book characters in DC to film essentially. And so he was like kind of shepherding that. And then I don't know what he did with Warner Brothers and DC, but I guess he pissed some people off and they fired him from his position. So now he's like an independent, but I think it's got it because he's developed like all of these terrible movies like Green Lantern. He wrote Green Lantern with Ryan Reynolds, which was
oh my god,
awful.
that was horrible.
Yeah.
And I mean, and this is the guy that fixed Green Lanterns in the comics. Like he made Green Lantern popular. Like
how does that happen? It's so weird.
It's got to be the producers, man. All these suits coming in, like this needs to be in the movie. This needs to be in the movie, and he's just like, he can't make it work.
Yeah, I bet like as a comic book writer, you're not necessarily like an expert and shrewd negotiator. Right, I'm sure there's a lot of negotiations that are happening when these things are getting made,
Plus, I just don't think everything in the comics translates to like the movie screen,
Well, dude, actually, I was gonna bring that up, like to that point, because one of my favorite shows that I saw this year, and I talked to you about it, Drew, and you basically sold me on reading the comics, and I've been working my way through them, just kind of rationing them. I didn't want to finish them too quick. but Lock and Key. So Lock
Mhm.
and Key is like a fantasy show on Netflix right now, but it originated as a comic book. And I found out from talking to Drew about it. It was written by Stephen King's son under a pen name. It's really interesting. I had no idea that his son was a comic book writer. And it's more of a graphic novel, I guess I'd say, right? Like, there's a lot of like adult themes in it. It has some, there's like a sexual assault that occurs, murder, there's like some crazy stuff. But generally speaking, it's a fantasy that kind of revolves around these kids that move into this home that is kind of like been in their lineage for a long time in like the Northeast. I think like Massachusetts, like kind of New Hampshire style setting, and they move in this old colonial house that has all these keys. And the keys do magical stuff. They have like magical properties. Like one key opens a door that when you pass through it, you die and you can go to the other side and communicate with the dead to learn secrets or learn about your past or where things are, blah, blah, blah. So that's like, for instance, and then you come back to your body and, you can utilize that information. So there's lots of really cool stuff that they did with the show. But a lot of the themes that were in the graphic novels didn't translate to the TV show very well at all. Like the TV show was very much not written to, I think, like the guys on this podcast or like the audience that maybe would be listening to this podcast, but certainly written for certainly the graphic novels were written for people like us, and more kind of like with that adult theme to them. I'm not sure if that's because it was like a Netflix special or if they have some kind of demographic data, but I see what you're saying there. Sorry, that was a long-winded way of just saying like that's like an example of your point.
No, that's a good point because, like, in my opinion, Lock and Key is it's a phenomenal like comic or graphic novel. Like everyone should read it. But like that's a thing that like it doesn't work like in like television or film. Like you can't capture the creativity that is on the pages in those or like in that story through representation that's going to do it justice on like the big or the small screen. Like you just don't, it would take so much time and like money to develop it correctly, in my opinion. But I think that's what it is like it's just like, okay, we gotta make this appealing to the lowest common denominator, like the most amount of people, to where one, where they can track it, or like two, it's going to be entertaining for them. Because I don't know if you guys have seen Tenet, but like it makes no fucking sense.
Never seen
And
it.
that's what happens when you have a director like Christopher Nolan, who's got a lot of clout and like the ability to make basically what he wants. And it's like sometimes it's good for these producers to come in and be like, let's tone this down, or like let's change this here, because it's like you shouldn't have to watch a film in like a theater and be like, what the fuck did I just watch? And like have to go back and like watch it again.
Right.
Yeah.
No,
Mhm.
yeah, and when it comes to Lock and Key too, I haven't seen Tenet, so I'd like to hear more about that. But when it comes to Lock and Key as well, I actually did enjoy the show, and that because that was my first exposure to it. I thought the show was I thought it was really well done. I thought like the way that they filmed a lot of the like magical properties for stuff was like really interesting and like and unique and fun. But the graphic novel, obviously, like as I've been working my way through them, are, in my opinion, they're better. And I mean, dude, the art is also like really, really great in the graphic novels. So
Yeah, art's phenomenal in that book.
That's always the catch when you have like really good books or graphic novels or comics is, you're never going to be able to recreate it in screens because, one, you got to fit it in 2 hours, like, and you're not going to be able to portray the depth that you can portray with, in writing that you can do in movies.
yeah, like it gives you these pictures that you can develop yourself that like the show just doesn't quite like really, you know what I mean? Like, I remember like just as an example, like one of the things in there is they get a key where you can literally put it in your head, and then you can put like a textbook inside your head, and the entire textbook by heart. So like going to school is a joke. You know what I mean? Like you don't need to go to school anymore, which is awesome. We've all been there. We all, have crammed for a test or crammed for something for work, and you wish you could just learn by osmosis, like sleep on the book that night and, wake up knowing everything. But in the graphic novel, the way they portray it, it gives you like so much better of like your own imagination, kind of imagining how this would look as you kind of go into a journey in your own mind. It's like really weird and kind of creepy,
Super
but
meta and trippy.
yeah, it is. It's trippy as hell, man. But yeah, like I think the show, like when I first saw it on the show, I was like, oh, this is really cool. This is neat. But then when I like saw it and kind of thought about it in the book, it was like a whole nother experience. So I think that's worth it.
Well, it's like in the book, you could do the character development of inside their head, what they're thinking, where in movies and shows, nobody wants to listen to an internal monologue all the time. So it's harder to get
Right.
that character development in of what they're doing or why they're doing the things they're doing, where on text, it's a lot easier. And so you get that way more invested in the characters
That's
that
super
way.
true.
Well, it also helps too if your actors can act and you don't have Gal Gadot who can't act to save her dumb life. God, she's awful.
She really
I mean,
does suck, man.
I don't know. I mean, she's a smoke show. She's great to look at, but I don't know what was worse, her Imagine video or Wonder Woman 84.
Dude, I guess I'd rather take the Imagine video because it's only like 3 minutes long, but
Right,
so
yeah, there
the
you
pain's
go.
over faster. But yeah, they're equally like proportionally for how short that video it is. It's equally as just gross and cringy.
So Drew,
It's
I'm
so
getting from your opinions that Wonder Woman is your favorite 2020 movie by far,
easily.
hands down.
that's
Yeah,
for
let
sure.
me go ahead and give Wonder
Yeah.
Woman an official score. 1 out of 10. 1 out of 10. I didn't know that Wonder Woman 84 was going to challenge the Suicide Squad for worst DC movie ever made, but it's up there. It's in the running.
And
So
I
I
do
will
want
give them
to.
credit. I will give them credit. They didn't have a
Definitely
blue
fire.
laser going up into the air.
Yeah, far worse than the Suicide Squad, I thought.
So you're
I'd rather
saying
watch Suicide.
if you like Suicide Squad, you're gonna like this. Is that what you're saying?
That's right.
No.
Yeah, if you like
I don't- I
Suicide
don't
Squad,
think
you're gonna
you're
love
like
this
it.
movie.
I will say too that like normally I like to hammer critics. You know, like I don't know. I've never met a person who's like, yeah, this is like my favorite critic. Like I love everything they do. You know, like they do so much good work on critical review of films or something. Like they always usually are just trash. Like when they they rated the Dave Chappelle special like they give it like a 1 out of 10,
Oh,
and then it got like a 99% user rating.
Yeah.
Like
It's
they're
that
just
Rotten
dog shit.
Apples or Rotten Tomatoes shit where the user reviews versus
Yeah.
the critic reviews are always so bad that no one even looks at critic reviews anymore. They always look at the like actual customer reviews.
Audience score.
Yeah, the critical reviews of that movie of Wonder Woman 1984 were not very good. So they actually I think they hit it on the head. I think they
got
knew
that
that like
right. Yeah.
hey,
Unless you're
it doesn't make
IGN,
sense.
which we were praising them for their Cyberpunk review, 4 out of 10. They gave Wonder Woman 84 an 8 out of 10. So
Why? For what? I didn't. Like I said, man, the
Yeah.
first like 10
it's
minutes
the-
were like cinematically cool, but like after that, the whole thing just fucking falls apart.
it falls apart immediately. So like when they go to that like Olympic game style type of thing, the movie falls apart. Like that scene in the mall, like what is going on in the mall? Like, has nothing to do with anything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. It
I was
just-
like,
it
what are we
sh-
doing here? Is this a campy movie? Like, is this like Batman and Robin? We're just not going to take it seriously from this point forward? Like, what's going on? What just happened here? The whole tone of the movie just shifted. Terrible.
Oh man.
Yeah, it's no good, man. But
But
anyway,
dude-
I think we beat that one up pretty good.
Yeah. Movie
yeah,
I would
we can all agree
recommend.
with that one.
Movie I would recommend. Did you guys see The Invisible Man?
No, I did
No,
not.
I've
No,
been thinking
but
about
that one
It's
actually
good.
looked like it would scare the shit out of me because I saw the
We-
commercials for it and I didn't want to watch it anymore because I got
It's-
kind of scared.
It's really well done. Like we were just talking about how, before the show started, Rob and I were talking about how we don't like scary movies, so I was recommending that you should watch The Thing. Thing, also a good movie. Check it out. John Carpenter. But Invisible Man, great movie. If you want to watch like a thriller, would recommend. I'd say that's the best movie that came out in 2020. It gets the Drew stamp of approval. Best movie of 2020. Invisible
Dude.
Man.
Drew, what was the so like I guess the reason why I didn't watch The Invisible Man was because I watched the old one. I forget who was the star in the older one from the 2000s.
Kevin
Not the
Bacon.
old. It was Kevin Bacon.
You talk about Hollow Man.
And he, like,
yeah, Kevin
Hollow
Bacon.
Man.
Hollow
he like
Man,
he
yo.
just like turned into like a sexual predator. So I was like, what the fuck? This isn't a good movie at all. Like,
yeah, but to be real, that's what every dude would do, though. You know.
I knew Joe was gonna say that. I mean, I would definitely try not to do that. I mean, I wouldn't be
I mean, it'd get
above
boring after a while,
you
you
know,
know?
sneaking into a bank vault. But I mean, I think, I think the whole like sexual predator angle just kind of took me by surprise. I was like, dude, this guy's invisible. He could do so much stuff. And of course, he's going to be a creepy fucking weirdo, right?
Dude, it's a I don't want to give away too much of the movie, but it is a great premise for an Invisible Man movie. It's basically about a woman who is in a very bad, like, abusive relationship, and the movie kind of just takes off from there. And
Okay.
it is really good. Like, definitely check it out. Would recommend.
Damn, I've been questioning it, so I'll watch it this week.
Yep.
Yeah.
I'll watch it as well.
It's well shot, well acted, good story. Just, I mean, you can nitpick it, but
Anybody,
Um,
anybody have any games that they loved? Sorry, Joe.
No, you're good. Go for it. No, go for the games. Let's transition to the games.
I mean, I really didn't have any big 2020 launches that I was like super stoked about. I mean, I found games in 2020 that probably didn't come out in 2020.
yeah.
Yeah.
So I didn't have too many that I was super stoked about. There is one that I actually found recently that I think is like, you guys are gonna think I'm the biggest nerd for this, but I think it's fucking awesome. There's two games that I would recommend if you're like a big strategy person who likes to think a lot while they play video games. I would highly recommend Crusader Kings. It was like one of the best games that I played like in the strategy class. And it's the type of game that like you guys would have wanted to have on a deployment. Like you need like 7 months of this game straight. You know what I mean? To complete like a full game. You start off as like a tiny little area of Europe. Maybe you're in, I don't know, Bavaria, or like you're in Hungary or whatever. And you start off as like a maybe like a count of like a, whatever. And you have to go from there, and you could literally unite all of the Holy Roman Empire under you. You know what I mean? It has different time periods and stuff. It's a great game. But most recently, I played another game that is the funniest game that I played in a while, called Grounded. Have you guys heard about it?
Yeah, I've watched
No,
people
what's
play it
that
on
one?
Twitch before.
What'd you think, Mike?
I thought it was interesting. I didn't think it was like my style of game, but I liked watching
Right.
it.
It's like a
I've never heard of this.
dude. So yeah, you could probably get on like your PS5. Maybe it's a Microsoft exclusive. I'm not 100% sure, but I've seen people on PC play it as well. But basically, it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You're like, you play like a teenager who gets shrunk in his backyard, and he has to like survive, dude. And like you can build and craft, and like it has this huge universe of stuff to do. But it's dorky. It's just hilarious. It's a hilarious game that like I think came out of nowhere. Like I saw no publicity for this game. Like no big launch, hype, nothing for it. And it's probably like a 10 out of 10 compared to some game like Cyberpunk. You know what I mean? Like you would probably put way more hours into something like Grounded than Cyberpunk, even if you thought it wasn't like your type of game. I think it was pretty well done. And the graphics look really great if you've got the right rig.
No, it's cool. It actually did get really popular on Twitch for a while. Like a couple months ago, because like you run away from like ants, and you got to build up little shelters. And I almost bought it. I actually almost got it for a little bit, because it reminded me of like a 7 Days or Rust, or like but more of like a cartoony mess around type of, maybe like a Borderlands, or some type of more less realistic survival, and more of a kind of mess around, play with your, like, kids can play it. It's not real. There's not a lot of like. They do have. Is that the movie? Is that the game where they have the arachnophobia thing, like, or a spider warning at the beginning? So you can turn off like spiders if you're scared of spiders. Like they have a feature in the game because this literally, like, you'll fight these big ass spiders, and they have literally a feature for it. I thought that was interesting too. But
yeah, I've never turned it on. I don't know what they turned into, but they're like giant. Yeah, like the spiders can be kind of crazy looking. So
yeah, no, that's a good game. The only other games that I like would say that I played this year that were good are not. I think would be like Fall Guys. That was kind of cool, new, like a cool party type game that was good. The other one would be Among Us, but Among Us didn't come out this year. That came out in like 18. It just became popular this year. But I thought Fall Guys was pretty cool, like party game. And then COD, just because of how much fun we had it during the pandemic, where we pretty much, as soon as they're like, hey guys, you're all stuck at home now. Sure. So what did we do? 10 of us played COD 8 to 10 hours a day, getting completely hammered till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then waking up and getting on and complaining about how late we were drinking and staying up, and then we just did it again. And then that was like 6 months of the pandemic.
That's why I'm.
Gave
That's
birth
why
to
I'm.
this podcast.
Yeah.
That's why I'm opposed to
Yeah.
stimulus checks. Is because
Yeah.
that's, ladies and gentlemen, that's how I use your stimulus check. I get $1,200 or $600 in beer, and I just play video games until they let me out of my house again.
And fun fact, Drew brought up, that is how the podcast originated, because it was us four playing video games, and everybody else that was with us was just like, you guys should do a podcast. You guys just go on rants and tangents, and boom, a couple months later, we started this. So,
Look at us now.
Yeah,
All
that
grown
was
up.
pretty much it for the games for me, besides, my old good and true and classic Safe from Tarkov, But
Game's great.
Did that like get its full? It's not full release yet, right? Or is it?
no, hell no. It'll probably
Yeah.
never be full released.
Yeah, I was gonna say, Michael.
Really?
Michael, don't get him started. Michael talked to you all night
get him
about
down
why
the
it's
Tarkov
never
rabbit
gonna be full release.
hole.
And they're gonna. But Mike, maybe you could talk about that, because that's like coming in the future. They're working like, so they want to abandon the online game and they want to build a single player game. Is that what it is?
No, they were talking about that, but so the goal behind Escape from Tarkov was a project that they were doing to make money, or like to fund their next game, which is going to be Russia 2020 or 20 something, and it's pretty much going to be like a post-apocalyptic, like single person, third person shooter, single player, like story game essentially, and that's
So
what they
they're
want to
stealing-
make.
They're stealing Metro without the monsters.
Yeah, basically.
No, I think they're trying to do what Tarkov is, but in like single player version, open world, like maybe like a Wildlands type thing, but in more of like the realistic hardcore world. So they made Tarkov as like their funding and like use all the stuff that they did in Tarkov for that game, but Tarkov wasn't supposed to be this popular and this big, and it blew up so big last year when they did the drops that they're doing now, that it just caught them by surprise, and they're like, oh, people actually are playing this, and now we got to actually,
Like,
invest
make the
more.
game,
Yeah. Like they weren't expecting this to ever be this big, so they had to restructure, grow, and all that stuff. But I don't think that they're going to abandon it, but it's definitely not going to be finished anytime soon because it's so big. They might release it as like, we're going to call it done, but it's definitely far from being done.
Yeah.
So, but anybody out there that wants to play a very frustrating, very rewarding, realistic / non-realistic shooter, check out Escape from Tarkov. It'll make you the most frustrated video game you ever played, but you can't stop.
Yeah. Till the next wipe.
Yeah,
And it's
right.
Game on.
Yeah.
So I've been told. But
Would you have,
Joe,
Joe? Did you have a game? Or Drew? Sorry.
Oh, go ahead, Joe.
No, I agree with Mike on the COD, man. I'm not the biggest video game guy, so I mean, we had a good time playing COD at the pandemic and everything like that. I mean, it was some good long days of drinking with the boys, playing COD, and I mean, just doing squads and stuff like that. So I mean, that's what's getting me into computer building and stuff like that. So I'm gonna start it here pretty soon. I'm a little behind the power curve on Drew right now, but yeah, I mean, I think that's the way to go, especially with all the new consoles coming out. So.
What, you don't want one of these $1,500 PS5s?
Yeah, I'm good. I might as well just put it together myself, right? Go buy one. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I think Squad seems pretty cool too. I mean, I've never played it, but that seems a little bit more realistic as well. Seems a little kind of cool to do. So I mean, that's
Squad's a fun game. They just came out with a World War I one. I didn't buy it, but so I don't know if it is any good. I believe that did come out this year though, but maybe I'll pick it up. Be a topic for another episode.
I just don't like the non-optics, World War I,
Same.
stuff. Like,
yeah.
if I'm not
that's
getting
what I
like,
think, too.
yeah, I don't want the older stuff. It's good. I watch people play it all the time, and it's literally just it's Squad, just not as developed as Squad because it's newer. So it plays similar, looks similar. It just needs a little bit more development time because it's newer. But it's not bad for sure. It'll be a fun game to play.
I'm going to sell like the biggest sellout, or at least the only console player on the podcast. But I play a lot of games, and the standouts for me from this year were got to give a shout out to like one of the games that got kind of lost in the whole like pandemic hysteria. So like everyone wasn't really talking about it a whole lot. Didn't get any love at the Game Awards or anything like this. But Doom Eternal is a very special game. Like that is a very unique rhythm. Like it's actually kind of a rhythm action shooter, which doesn't sound like that entertaining, but it is. Like there's a certain like it's kind of like a dance you do with like as the Doom Slayer, just like running around hell, just killing all these creatures. But it's so much fun, like high energy, like high pace, like pin precision shooting, but action all at the same time. You can pretty much do whatever you want. You feel like you're a god. It's awesome. Like Doom Eternal, everyone should get it and play it. It's amazing. And then of course, Spider-Man Miles Morales, great on the PS5. Really fun game.
You beat it yet?
Like, yeah, I beat it. Beat the
Nice.
game. So it's a
How
quick
long did it
game,
take?
and that's what's nice about it too. So you can get it done in like 20 hours or something like that. Maybe a little bit less, 15.
That's not bad.
Yeah,
Has it got
it's-
replayability or is it a
yeah,
one
it's got
done?
replayability, and you can
Nice.
go back and do like the new game plus, play like with all your abilities that you unlock, so it's not as difficult at the beginning or at the end. And it's just really fun. It's a good character, well written game, good narrative. And then also got this new Assassin's Creed, man. I know it's the same shit over and over and over again, but like I really like it, man. Assassin's
good.
Creed. I call it Assassin's Creed Ragnarok, but it's Valhalla. But dude, I love it, man. It's a great game, man. I love the Norse mythology. Dude, it's so much better than like everyone lauds Odyssey or praises Odyssey because of like there's just so much to do. But like I didn't like the world. The characters were bad. Like it wasn't written well. Like dude, the dude just is like Malaka. Like every like 10 seconds he's saying Malaka, and I'm just like,
Yeah.
this is like the most unlikable like protagonist you've ever had in a video game. Like, don't feel any, and like,
Dude, I completely agree.
yeah, and like Ivor, like the main character in this new Assassin's Creed, like I like him. The story's well, like it's written a lot better. Like I'm interested, feel more of a connection to it. But dude, my game of the year, it's got to be Ghost of Tsushima. Great game, dude. It's a Japanese game. Like it's basically the Assassin's Creed game that we always should have had. It takes place in like feudal Japan, like late 12th century. You play as a samurai. It's awesome. It's just a really good game. Unique way of like exploring the world and having like a HUD. You follow like the wind and animals to guide you through the map, like through the fog of war. There's a fog of war like over the map as you explore, and then like it's just awesome being a samurai and fucking up Mongols. And it's actually like a realistic, it's a thing that happened. Like the Mongols did try to invade like Japan, and it's like their take on it, and it was amazing. It blew me away. I couldn't believe how much I actually liked it. But definitely play
awesome.
Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah,
And
I didn't read Valhalla because I have it, but I haven't really been able to play it because it's so demanding on my PC. So I'm waiting for my new computer to come, and then I'm gonna jump into it.
it's good, and like because the combat is so amazing in Tsushima, like I was like, dude, it's gonna be so hard to play Assassin's Creed right after that, because like I'm like, this is just like a way better, more fluid, like way more. It's just Assassin's Creed done better. Like there's no way I'm gonna like Valhalla like more than I like Tsushima, which I didn't, but like it doesn't fall off that much. Like Valhalla is really good.
Yeah.
I like it. It's a little
that's
more
awesome.
like clunky, but
Yeah, I mean, I feel
still
like that's
fun.
the typical Assassin's Creed clunk
Yeah.
par for the course.
And then got to give out my worst games of the year.
Nice.
Got to give them out.
I think we already know one of them.
Dude, Black Ops Cold War. I do not like that game.
Really?
Didn't even
It
play that
sucks.
one.
I don't like it. I don't like it. It's compared to like Modern Warfare, like it's just not good. Like there's a lot of development problem with the game. This is like getting way too technical. The bit rate in it is so low for their dedicated servers that like you can just get in a gunfight with somebody, and just because the server isn't pinging fast enough, like you just randomly lose a gunfight because the server didn't register the bullets you shot at somebody, and then you die because they registered theirs. And it's just
Woof.
like I'm not playing this game. Like I can't do this. I'm not
Yeah.
gonna grind this out for like hours. So it was just terrible. And then worst game of the year, it definitely doesn't deserve it as far as like it's a well-made game, but the story and the narrative they went with this fucking thing. Last of Us Part 2. You did
Oh,
something special. You took a world that was amazing and like unique and interesting, and you just shit all over it, and you literally had the character that we all fell in love with in the first game, Joel, literally beaten to death by the embodiment of femininity. Like, was literally beaten to death with a golf club by like a woman in the game who's bigger than any of us in this podcast. And when we were like lifting and working out and like in the prime of our lives, like this chick's got like 23-inch pythons and beats Joel to death. And they're just like, we're going to take all the characters that you loved in the first game and ruin them. And you're going to hate them. We're going to show you that they're terrible people. And that's the game.
Yeah,
It's
okay.
awful.
Interesting.
Awful.
I really liked the first one. Remember when we bought a PlayStation and then shared it?
I remember that. Didn't you guys go buy like a pawn shop or something?
We bought a PlayStation. We bought a used PlayStation just to play The Last of Us.
Dude, I remember
that game.
I was like, you guys are crazy, bro.
No, that's not crazy. That's dedication.
Right.
Ingenuity.
True.
Dedication to playing good games, man. Got to play the good game.
That's it, dude.
But dude, they take the characters from there and then like they just make you try to hate them. And like the character that beats Joel to death, they force you to play with her in this game. And then they try to do like a redemption arc for her. And just like, it doesn't matter. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, I'm not going to like this character. She literally beat to death the only guy I really even cared about in the game. So like, right. I'm out. I'm permanently checked. I'm just checked out, dude. Like, it doesn't matter what you do. Like, sorry, Neil Druckmann. Like, I'm not going to like your game anymore. Sorry.
That's a bummer, man. I can't believe they ruined it.
Yeah, I guess, because I don't like it. I guess I'm a virgin, just an incel, virgin, like.
Terms of service. Can't say that.
Yeah.
Hey, that's what IGN said in the write-up about it, all right? I'm just repeating.
No, those were some good takes.
Yeah, I just don't know how they, going back to how you fuck it up so bad, Like, who's sitting in the boardroom like, hey, the first one was a huge success because they liked all these characters. Let's do the exact opposite now.
Well, you know what it was is that it didn't need a sequel. Like, obviously, like, the guy that originally wrote the first one, like, he just didn't have it, and like, he just didn't have a story to tell anymore. He told the story in the first one. Like, in the first one, it could just ended where it was, and everyone would have been fine with it. Probably would have liked to see the universe continue or something like that, which they probably should have done considering how this game turned out. They should have just like gone to completely different characters within the same universe. But obviously he just didn't really have anything to tell other than like he just wanted to destroy his creation from the first one for whatever reason. Don't know.
Payout, bro.
Yeah. And then he makes it like, well, spoiler alerts for Last of Us Part 2, but like he makes this whole thing like you're just trying to go like get revenge on the lady that killed Joel, and they just turn into like, oh, revenge is meaningless, like, and it doesn't mean anything. So like you do this whole thing to go on a revenge, kill this lady, and then at the end, like, you don't even do it, and you're like, okay, this game was just a giant waste of time, like, awesome. And then it ends on a cliffhanger, like, great, perfect.
Oh, like
really
they're gonna make another one.
Story. Yeah, exactly.
Like, oh, great! I'm definitely excited to buy the next one because this was so much fun.
Well, I mean, hey, it's just my opinion. Like, it won all the awards at the game. Like, it's won every award. It's the game of the year for this year. So,
yeah, well, Cyberpunk won a lot of awards, so I don't know if I really go off of the track record of video game awards,
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, exactly. Like, video game critics are getting just as lousy as Hollywood critics work. So it's not run by people that care about games. They care about what they're writing. Their, I don't know,
their political agenda.
Yeah.
Or they look at like, well, it's well or like it's well cinematic,
Yeah.
Or the features are cool, right? But it's not like, yeah, but the game sucks. They did it's okay. It's good in this one little technical area, but it sucks.
Well, that's the thing about The Last of Us is like, oh, it's bold writing. And like I'll give the guy that wrote the game, Neil Druckmann, credit. Like, yeah, that is bold to take like the main characters from the first story and essentially destroy them, but like you don't get an award for being bold. Like you have to still
Yeah.
tell the story
Yeah.
well. Like
It has to be
it
good.
still has to be a good story. Like the
Still has to
narrative
be
and like
good.
like it has to be good. Like you don't get awards for just like it's just like that Elizabeth Holmes chick. Like she had a good like people have good ideas all the time. Doesn't mean they're gonna work. Like yes, it's a brilliant idea to like have the like Elizabeth Holmes was the Theranos lady. She like was the lady that defrauded like all these people out of like millions, even Walgreens out of like millions and millions of dollars, saying that she could take like one drop of blood and run like thousands of different like tests on it. And it's just like, yeah, it's a good idea, but like you can't do that. Like it's a great idea to like run all like the blood tests that you want for diagnostic reasons in medicine with a drop of blood. Just not possible.
Dude, that chick was such a baller, like scam artist, man. She didn't she even
Oh
have
my God,
Maddox or Jim Mattis on the board?
She had a
Mad
lot of
Dog?
people that were like in the defense. Yeah, Mattis was on the board, was a board member. She had a couple other people. I think Clapper might have been on the board as well.
Oh, really?
Yeah, yeah. She had what's his name? She had two guys from Apple that were like Steve Jobs' like inner circle. Dude, she defrauded a lot of people, a lot of smart people. I mean, she even got Walgreens. She got Walgreens for like millions and millions of dollars.
It would be
Mr.
great if they
Walgreens?
could do it.
Yeah. And she's probably like, who knows? The trial was supposed to be this year, but I think COVID messed that up. So we're not
I mean,
gonna make closure
you
on that.
think
anytime.
anything's gonna happen?
Probably not.
Yeah.
Probably not.
I'm not
No.
confident that there will be. I mean, I remember like you remember that guy Martin Shkreli?
Yes.
That
He's in
was
prison.
yeah, well, I didn't get to
Which
really
guy?
I didn't Martin's I'll tell you right now. Basically I didn't get to talk about him last week, I don't think. But my mind's moving a little slow cuz I did get just absolutely very drunk last night and I'm suffering from a hangover today. So stop me if I did tell this already. But
Irish flu.
did you guys see the story where the journalist was like,
I heard about that.
dude, it's the best story hands down of 2020 in my opinion. Dude, so anyway, basically, all right, this guy Martin Shkreli is like all-time biggest supervillain scumbag like on earth, right? He I mean, I still like him, but I mean, I don't have that same level of like morality towards these things. It's business, right? And business can be shitty, man, and so can the people in it. But anyway, he's the guy who like jacked up the prices of EpiPens so that people were paying like $600 for an EpiPen. He's the dude who he jacked up the price of HIV medications for people that have HIV.
I remember this guy now.
He's such an asshole that he even Wu-Tang produced an album, a one-of-one album. He's such an asshole that he bought the Wu-Tang Clan album and wouldn't let anyone else in the whole world hear it. He just kept it to himself. And so like this guy was just
The ultimate
world-class.
fuck you.
Dude, he was just world class, like straight supervillain status, like the worst guy. And this chick is a journalist. I forget who she reported for. It was someone big. God forgive me for that. But
The Post?
I want to say it was WAPO, but I'm not 100%, so I didn't want to like totally misspeak, but I already did, so there it is. But I don't know, not 100% on that. But she was a good journalist from a good good journalist from a good reputable news source, right? So they say. And bro, so she's covering Martin Shkreli. She ends up falling in love with him, leaving her husband, abandoning and ruining her own life. And then when she publishes some of the things about him and then the fact that she's like romantically involved with him, he basically chucks deuces on her and he's like, good luck. Like, you're on your own. It is like, you guys,
Damn.
if you get some time, I didn't want to spend 20 minutes on it, but like if you get some time, you have to read into it. It is just, it's so funny, dude. She like talks about how like, dude, some of the things that she writes is just so asinine, dude. Like she talks about how she met him like at a wine bar in I think like Chelsea here in Manhattan or something because she was living in Brooklyn, left her husband, and all that stuff, and like fell in love with him. And she describes like when she first realized she was in love with him in this wine bar. It's like, dude, this guy's the biggest fucking asshole on planet Earth, dude. and you're supposed to be this liberal journalist, and you trying to cover him and show all these terrible things he did, and you fell in love with him, dude. Oh, it's so good. It's great.
Oh man.
So,
But it
Dude.
reminded me like of that lady being, the Theranos lady being such a scammer. Martin Shkreli, I think, was kind of similar in the sense that like he maybe he wasn't so much a scammer, but definitely a he didn't have a lot of business ethics. Let's put it that way.
yeah, like that Elizabeth Holmes chick probably did either like they did a podcast series on her. It's called The Dropout. It's pretty in depth. It's really good. But one of the most interesting things that came from that they uncovered was they talked to some of the people that she went to college and high school with, and that's when you got like the most insight into Elizabeth Holmes' personality. So if you guys don't know, Elizabeth Holmes basically tried to make herself the female Steve Jobs, to where she literally dressed exactly like him. And then she did this, she faked her voice. So when you see Elizabeth Holmes and like watch her like on a video or watch her speak, it's really uncanny and like disturbing because she just has like this glazed over like look in her eyes, and she has a very like unsettling deep voice that's very monotonous, and it's just there's something about it that's like really off-putting, and it was all an act. That's not what her voice sounds like. That's not what she normally looks like. And then when you talk to like these people that went to high school with her, there was just something off of her like at the very like from the get-go, because they were talking to people that she was like, yeah, we knew her from high school, or like everybody knew her in high school because she ran track, and she would run events like the mile or something, and she would finish like 10, 15 minutes after her event was over, after everybody had run, and would still continue running the race and would run to finish it. Like there'd be people walking on the track and stuff, and like the people come on the intercom like, get off the track, they're still running on the track. And like she'd just be out there, just didn't give a fuck, just running. And it's just like, there's something wrong with you when you're running a mile at like 30 minutes or 15 minutes a mile. Like
Yeah, you could like walk.
like,
You could walk
quit.
it faster.
Yeah, like you walk faster. Like just
That's what. Yeah, I was gonna say. Yeah, just walk.
quit. Just give up. Like it's over. Like you're done. Like it's embarrassing.
Wasn't rucking in the Marine Corps pace of like 15-minute miles when you ruck or something like that when you're doing marches and like
Yeah,
this is saying, yeah, and that was the mile on a flat track, you know.
Yeah.
Well, dude,
yeah.
I mean, think about the damage. So, like, for instance, like I brought up before that she had Jim Mattis on the board. Like, I would imagine the only reason he was on that board was to be a liaison for them to start distributing that device she was making to the freaking military. Like, think about how damaging it could have been if like somebody didn't discover that this was all just a fucking sham. And now they're doing these like, oh no, you're good. You don't have malaria. Nope, you don't have hepatitis. Nope, you don't have HIV, because they're doing this single drop.
Whatever.
Yeah, like whoa, dude. Like, I think that's dangerous, man. She should get locked up for a long time, man.
Henry Kissinger was on that board.
Oh wow,
damn,
I didn't know that. It's crazy. I mean, I guess I don't know. I don't.
Yeah.
I guess I don't know a
Henry
ton about like
Kissinger,
boards. I feel like
George
maybe
Shultz.
George who?
George Shultz.
Oh, George Shultz.
He's like a old timey billionaire. Yeah.
I feel like with board stuff, it's not like, I don't know if it's that hard to get on boards. Maybe I think you just have to be in the right positions, obviously, of like power and authority, and then like those things kind of naturally happen because people want access to your people, so they bring you onto the board. But so I'm not like, I don't know exactly how that stuff breaks out. But it is sketch, man. I mean,
the former CDC director was on that board as well.
How are you the former CDC director and you're like, no, this all looks great, like.
Yeah,
were they all part of it?
Board.
Yeah, exactly.
This makes sense to me.
Yeah,
like,
I don't get that.
And another interesting thing about that podcast series called The Dropout that comes up is they talked to, like, she went to Stanford, Elizabeth Holmes, and they basically talked to. So one of the things they try to do with Elizabeth Holmes was like, they're like, oh my god, look at this like female entrepreneur who's got like this really unique idea, and she's probably going to change medicine, and they're really trying to promote her and like give her, you know, the rub, like the media rub, to try to promote her idea and like be like, oh, she's a success story. They talked to one of the professors that's at Stanford University, who is essentially Elizabeth Holmes, like for all of her contributions to medicine. Like she is the person that developed the technology that when you take a pill, it's the extended release in a pill. So like you take a pill and it wants to release over like 10 hours or something. This woman invented it, and it's just like nobody knows who this person is. Like you couldn't like pick her out. Like nobody sees her. Like nobody knows her work. Like doesn't know anything. And it's just like, why aren't you promoting this person when she got the idea from a class that she taught? She was talking about microfluidics and like how you can use like a one drop of something to like do all these crazy things with it. And they talked to her in the podcast. And he's like, yeah, Elizabeth just heard one of my lectures on microfluidics and she just got a good idea and she just ran with it. She's like, millions of people all over the world have good ideas. Doesn't mean they should be developed into like something you sink millions and millions of dollars into. Like she's like developing a car with square wheels. Interesting idea. It's not feasible. Can't work. But she's like, people have good ideas all the time. People have interesting ideas or good ideas. They don't always work.
I think that there's probably a day we'll get to where stuff like that will be, like we'll get the instrumentation will get there. But yeah, definitely now is like if it ain't broke, don't fix it, dude. You want to try to like get your sensitivity and specificity of testing as accurate as possible. Not necessarily by like reducing the input, right? But by strengthening the output. So I don't know.
Right. I mean, she was doing crazy shit. She was being like, oh, with one drop of like antibiotics, we can change the way. And she's just like, antibiotics don't work that way. You need like a certain amount of concentration of them. Like there's just no way of getting around that and stuff like that.
One drop of doxycycline, no more malaria. We've won the war. We won the war on malaria.
All you need, bro.
So
Pack your bags up. Go home, boys.
And I don't know if it's just corruption, laziness, or that's why I was saying like with the board process, it's like maybe that dude that was the former director of the CDC who was on her board, maybe he just got an email one day that said like, yo, there's this revolutionary company where we're doing this, it's in the works. We'd really love to have you on the board. What do you think? And the guy's like, yeah, sure. Cool, man. I'm on like 50 fucking boards. Yeah, that's perfect, man. If this ever goes anywhere, like give me a call, like type of thing. You know what I mean? It's because I don't think like if you're on a board like that, you do anything, right? Like because they were board of advisors, not board of directors, right?
No, these were board of directors.
They were board of directors. Okay, so
I think they would do even like less, right? If they're advisors, then you would assume they would have more insight into the actual product of development or. Like
I don't think it's the opposite. Like a board of advisors is just like you could get tapped. You know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, hey, by the way, like, we're running like, I don't know. I keep going back to the Mattis thing, but maybe you could just hit Mattis and say like, hey, we're running into this problem with our government contract, and Mattis is like the dude who knows everybody or how it works and
gotcha, that makes sense.
You get through the roadblocks or whatever the red tape.
Right. Advises in the way of how to get through the red tapes of the DoD, for instance, or how to get through the red tape of the CDC or this or that.
I think there's virtually zero chance that like a general would know like dick all about like medical instruments. You know what I mean?
Right. Why? Like that's the thing is why is Jim Mattis on the board of directors for a medical?
That's what I'm saying. It's contracting, man. It's all military industrial complex. It's all to make sure that like you can get those devices out to your troops.
And that's what she was trying to do. She was trying to like be like, and that was one of the things like when she was defrauding all these people, being like, she kept telling like she told the members at the board of directors at Walgreens like, oh yeah, our technology is being used on the battlefield of like Afghanistan and Iraq, and like they're like the people that like you have like people that were like working for the company are like, we never did anything with the military.
Yeah, dude. I don't know how any of that would work.
Well, there's a lot of money in that whole selling to the military, Like we talked about it last week with the like PMCs, and how much government money goes into just those contracts, and then they get put in positions of boards and advisory roles in like government settings that end up just feeding into it more,
Think about how much more efficient it is. I mean, like look at us broken assholes who were in the military for longer than one enlistment. And the government has to pay us forever now. They got to pay us GI bills. They got to pay you disability. They got to pay you all these things. Whereas, like, if you just say, hey, private military contractor group XYZ, we would like to use you for whatever thing. There's so much cost reduction. You know what I mean? That you pay them a flat rate. You never pay them any disability. You never pay them any. They don't get tuition assistance. Their wives don't get fucking tuitions assistance. You know what I mean? Like there's none of that stuff. And then also like if you think about the political side, like you lose the political component of things like casualties, right? These guys, like, when's the last time that, I mean, there is a time that people cared when private military contractors were killed. People obviously always care about that stuff. But I mean, more generally speaking, from the 30,000 foot view of like the American public, if they see a couple Blackwater operators that get killed in Afghanistan, it's different than seeing American coffins with American flags draped over them. You know what I mean? It's just it has a different tone, sends a different signal. So like there's political cost reduction there. There's all types of things like that.
Like think about publicity reduction too, right? Like if Blackwater contractors get in a firefight and one of them gets killed, it isn't like a making frontline news of, service member dies in Afghanistan, or why are we still in Afghanistan, or why are we still fighting in Afghanistan? Like the news doesn't pick that up because they can't blame an administration or they can't blame anybody politically, except for maybe blaming whoever hires the contractors. But that's not going to go anywhere because that they don't really ever touch that, So from the publicity side of it, kind of covers them. It's like they don't have to worry about hearing about it,
Yeah, exactly.
Right. And you can just bankrupt the company too. Like, so there's not only like no political or less political ramifications, but like if you want, you can try to go after the private company because you can sue them. You can't really go after the American government. It's a lot harder.
Yeah, I think another like externality too is and something that I was gonna try to talk about tonight with like some of the like groups that I've read about is these guys are all like they work together a ton. It's not like you need like ISAF type of fucking partner force training and integration. They're just contractors that work together. They all know exactly what they're supposed to do. They know how to work together, and you just drop them off in theater and they do their thing. You know what I mean? They have their established mission that they got to take care of done. So you reduce like that whole multinational angle of like having UN dudes, having partner force dudes, having American dudes, having all these people trying to mix together that usually, and I'm sure Drew and Joe will be able to speak to this a great deal. Mike, you as well. The idea that like you get all these people together and then they pretty much don't know what the fuck is going on because there's communication breakdown. Everybody has different tactics. Everybody does things different. So,
well, that's always the problem when you start.
But yeah, just you come qualified already. Like you're not training anybody. You can hit the ground running. It's low profile, like you said. Like it makes sense to not raise any suspicion or anything like that. With a bunch of guys that already know what the fuck they're doing, you don't have to hold their hands. That's why GRS and again we'll talk about this a little bit later, but like GRS and all these contract and CIA kind of companies are using them. It's out the door running.
Well, that's why it's impossible to get a contract without being military. You cannot, unless you're a SWAT or have like law enforcement experience, you cannot get on even like, because like you can get a gate guard duty in Leatherneck as like a grunt or any Joe Smo that was in the military. You can get a $100 a day standing in a tower on Leatherneck, but if you want to have like the contracts, where you're GSR or you're like doing Blackwater stuff, you got to be obviously more qualified and higher tier, but you have to have that military experience because they want that, like they don't want to have to train you. They want to know that you at least are kind of used to that type of environment and that they can just put you there and if you do something stupid, they can just fire you. It's not like the military where they're stuck with you now either, You got to fight for your contracts. You got to fight for your spot there,
There's all different types of levels with it too, because you look at the lowest level like you're talking about, and where you're just doing like guard and you're standing there and maybe getting anywhere from $100-$500 a day, but then you go to something like Brown, I think like all the ex like CAT guys and SEAL Team 6 guys and stuff like that. It's just like various levels that you can go through, and it just again, it's they're not fucking around. They're hitting the ground ready to go. So
yeah,
good money, a lot of good money with it.
Well, that's why like a lot of these.
Yeah, that's Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
I was just gonna say that's why like a lot of percentage of these companies primarily use like contractors now over having the staff. You even look at it from the base level of like when we were in the military, like we saw a great transition, like a really, I guess, high transition from active duty people doing jobs to civilians doing the same jobs now. They're contracting out supplies, they're contracting out like nurses, and they're contracting out pretty much a lot of the hospital jobs
Cooks.
now. Yeah, everything, because it's just more efficient and easier to run it that way than having, like Rob was mentioning, the forever spending for, military members.
Yeah, there's a huge cost associated with having military dudes, and then also there's conflicts that you just can't involve your military in. So like a long time ago, I read this book that I would recommend to anybody. I have no like affiliation, obviously, with the author or the book itself, but I just read it, thought it was good. It's called License to Kill, and
I've read
with a
that.
licensed. You read that as well, Mike? Yeah,
Mhm.
it's a fantastic book. And basically it breaks out like a lot of these kind of mercenary style groups and some of the things that they did. And for instance, like there are a lot of poor governments, say in Africa, sometimes in South America, very poor governments that can't fund or raise their own militaries. And so they literally will contract out their security. Because I mean, if you think about it, like security is a cornerstone anywhere. You can think about it on the municipal level, you can think about it on the national level. Like if you don't have a secure city, or if you don't have a secure town, or if you don't have a secure country, people don't want to move there. People don't want to start businesses there because they have no security. And so these folks will straight up just contract this stuff out in order to increase their security or crush a rebel group that may be starting to trying to start some trouble, things of that nature. So it's hugely efficient on that front as well.
Yeah, one of the things that I thought was interesting, like, is the I guess the rampant pace that once PMC started being used a lot, like in the what was it, the first Gulf War, going into like the Iraq War, you saw a huge shift in presence, right? So like in like the early '90s, like '80s, '90s, like it was like every 10 military members for one contractor. Then when we got to Iraq, it flipped to 10 contractors for one military member. So you had like
Yeah.
100,000 contractors in Iraq, you know? And then it
Well,
just gets bigger and bigger as it's been since then.
I think it's the perfect solution, especially for an ugly war like what happened in Iraq. That, like in my opinion was probably sold on a lot of false pretense, but that's a whole nother issue. But now you can have lots of private entities that do, because imagine this, dude. Imagine you have local diplomats, you have American diplomats, you have like VIP personnel such as State Department folks, CIA, all those kind of dudes that are operating in that area, and they're not doing spooky, crazy stuff. They're just doing normal, everyday paper pushing bullshit, but they've got to get like from the embassy to the airport. And imagine if American troops were rolling down fucking, Highway 1 or whatever it is towards an airport, getting killed every day to transport a diplomat. So instead, you contract it out, you get a couple of dudes that are willing to get paid lots of money in order to take that risky trip every day or every 3 days or whatever it is to get this dude to and from. And I mean, that's exactly what happened in, a lot of this. I guess my point is more largely is that a lot of this stuff is private security details. And that's exactly what happened with the Battle of Fallujah. Private security detail gets overrun in Fallujah. They kill the dudes, they pull them out of the car, they hang their bodies off of a bridge in Fallujah. The US military says, okay, that's not allowed, goes in and starts fucking everybody up. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the long and short of it. But that's kind of where you run into these kind of like externalities where it's like it's really positive because you're kind of keeping American military members who are meant to do not policing operations or like transportation operations for these people. And you kind of outsource that stuff. You know what I mean?
Mhm. It also is better to have the longer longevity in like as a presence, right? So if you do have to have like some type of presence, like escorting these guys back and forth, you can say that you have no foothold in American troops in Afghanistan or Iraq, but you still
Right.
have, the same amount of troops, but now they're all contractors doing the same job, but you don't have privates doing 6 month rotations, coming back or like getting fucked up over there. You just have contractors that are doing 3 month rotations or whatever. And, like you said, they could be getting paid like next to nothing or up more, depending on, like, we have a couple friends that are in that world, and a lot of it's like babysitting, chauffeuring,
Yeah.
It's like,
Well, that's the
well,
problem is like
Yeah.
they reduced it after a while, but I think they ran into the same problem that you saw in Africa. There was a company called Executive Outcomes. I'm not sure if you guys have ever heard of them. But this company essentially was fighting, literally fighting wars for the governments of certain countries in Africa, in places like Liberia or Angola, and literally would fly in, kill everyone that had taken over a diamond mine, and then they ran the diamond mine. It was like a lot of really weird, like maybe not okay stuff that like no one knew about anymore. Like we don't really know what's happening to these things, or what's being taken from the government, or what's being given to the government. Is the government like even the type of government that we want, like straight killing their citizens? Because these are, maybe they're rebel factions, but they're still citizens, right? Like, and now the government is just bringing in these, South African or European mercenaries that are just smoking everybody because they're, way more equipped. They're seasoned dudes, who probably had fought in, whether it be Rhodesian Bush Wars or whether it be some other conflict, you know what I mean? And yeah, I mean, that's where you start like you get a bunch of hammers together, right? You get a bunch of hammers together and everything's a fucking nail. And they just start knocking everybody off. And that's kind of exactly what happened in Iraq. I mean, I think it happened less so in Afghanistan, but like in Iraq, like with the Battle of Najaf, I think like literally whole sections of the Battle of Najaf were fought by contractors. Like just ununiformed private military contractors in flannel shirts just throwing down with insurgents. It's like, I don't know if that's the way you want your wars fought, but maybe it's better. I mean, you guys got to convince me. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's where you kind of draw the line, is when they're like, you're communicating and the guys holding your perimeter or your flank are contractors, and, you're mixing active duty with contractors in that level. I think that's where you kind of draw the line. But if it's like, I have a outpost or a base here or something, and, I want to have a minimal active duty presence. So, I hire contractors to do like, some of the other tasks, but I'm not going out on patrols with them. I'm not coordinating missions with them. Maybe they're my helicopters, or maybe they're my air inserts or something. But that was about it.
That's what it turns into, though. It's like you're talking about. These guys are on the move. They're going with these guys from point A, and like initially that's their job. But what happens if you do, get contact? Like that's kind of shitty. You're like, all right, $100,000, this and that, and that's what I expect out of the year. And then you're in Iraq and Fallujah getting fucking gunfights, like clearing house to house. I mean,
and then to your point, Joe, too. Like, what do you do as like Americans in the rear? Like, what if you're a commander of a battle space and now you have ununiformed Americans that are getting overrun and killed? Do you send an Apache gunship? Yeah. Do you support them with fire support? I mean, that's a tough question. I don't know, right? Like, do you send an American QRF out there of uniformed, soldiers or Marines or whoever, in order to? Well, yeah. And that's the thing is
Gazi question.
That's exactly what you run into, right? Is like, how many uniformed Americans do you want on TV dead, versus contractors? I mean, because contractors,
flannel wearing fucking badasses.
I mean, dude, I think it's a simple equation too, though. Like it's one of those things where like you know what you signed up for as a contractor, right? Like you're not these guys are not stupid. They're smart guys. Most of the time they come from a special operations background, and so they know that they are the exposable asset. Mm-hmm. Or I'm sorry, disposable asset. Yeah. They're the dude who, like, the government is hiring you specifically so they don't give a fuck about you. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's no like, like, I get it. I don't want to be ultra controversial because obviously those dudes at Benghazi did not deserve what happened to them. But it's like, at the same time, man, like, it's the same reason why I don't think nurses for their frontline service. It's like, dude, we all signed up for the things we signed up for, right? Like, I don't expect anybody to thank me for having been in the fucking military. I'm sure you guys don't either. It's like, these are choices you make in life. Like,
you mean those heroes?
Exactly.
No, like
I'd have to agree with that too.
Like, what are the points of friction when it comes to like interacting with actual like government, military forces? Like, what are those points of friction, and what's the oversight as well? Like, how much latitude are you willing to give them? Because like, what's the like the upper bound limit of like how big like a PMC group get? Like, can they have a strike carrier group? Like, what's preventing them from like having their own strike carrier group? Like,
and a lot of
why not, right?
And a lot of these guys, you're right, dude. Like a lot of these guys have a naval presence too, which I think we all agree that like you can make jokes however you want to about the Navy, but if you rule the sea in this world, like you rule the fucking world. So if you have serious naval presence, like that's also kind of sketchy. You know what I mean? Like
You have
Especially
if
off
you
the
have
south
one
coast of
aircraft
South Africa.
carrier, I mean, if you have one aircraft carrier, it's a game changer. It's 40 acres of sovereign territory you can put anywhere in this planet, and like not only put in this
Straight up.
planet,
Seriously.
like control like an insane amount of area. Like you can't even fathom. Like, can you imagine that? Like if you have an aircraft carrier and you're able to launch like 100 aircraft out of that thing.
Dude, it's crazy.
Bro,
And that,
Metal Gear
I,
is solid. You know, we got the oil rigs out in the middle of nowhere that you could just fly to and fucking re-equip and then jet out again in international waters. You know.
I have an example
Point
too of where it does go wrong, and that is with executive outcomes in Africa, where they essentially got all these guys got busted. This was like a famous case. All these guys got busted. All these contractors. You can look up one of the ringleader, and I believe he was like kind of a co-founder. He wasn't the founder, but his name is Simon Mann. And you can look him up, give him a Google. But he basically, South African dude with lots of military experience as a at the officer level, starts, co-founds executive outcomes. They start getting contracts all over Africa while Africa was very hot over diamond conflicts and things like that. And decides like, hey, I'm just gonna buy a 737 loaded up with money and guns, and we're gonna go throw a coup in Equatorial Guinea, and it's gonna be my country. And they literally got busted, literally trying to fucking take the country over. And they were put in prison in these countries, and actually it was in Zimbabwe where they ended up being imprisoned. Which, for anybody who doesn't know, is at that time Zimbabwe had just kind of got its independence from Europeans, from European colonialism, and had just transitioned from being Rhodesia to Zimbabwe. They were not the biggest fan of white people. And especially white colonial Europeans, and especially the ones that want to overthrow governments. And so these guys ended up going to prison. A couple of them died. Some of them lived and were released. And it's just like a really great case of like what happens when you just let a couple dudes have too many toys and too much access to money, right? It can get like this shit is like it sounds like it's something out of like a Tom Clancy novel, right? But it happened in real life.
Yeah. Well, the dude who started Blackwater, Eric dude or whatever, like he's been charged multiple times with like weapons trafficking and like all types of shady shit. Like it's almost like it's a hand in hand, right? Like there's probably never a truly like altruistic like PMC company. Like they're probably going to be selling guns to anybody who wants to buy guns from them that they can get away with. You know, they're not, or they're going to go anywhere that's going to pay them a contract. They're probably not really going over like, well, should I really be selling these guys guns? You know, they're probably not really like the best business ethics either. You know, probably going more of like, can I make money?
The contracts,
right?
You know, it is all about the money. You know, it's mercenaries versus PMCs. Go for it, Drew.
But with Blackwater, like, I mean, okay, there are examples of like executive outcomes where they are like trying to throw like create a coup and like overthrow a government and run their own country. But like Blackwater, like everyone wants to, because of the controversies they had, where they had the incident where actually, because this just came up in the news again because two of the guys in this incident just got pardoned by Donald Trump when they killed, I think it was like 17.
They killed 17
Iraqi
in 2007.
civilians.
Yeah.
It was the kids too.
It was a NASA something massacre. It was a NASA something massacre in 2017.
Right, and that's bad. Like that's definitely not good. Like really bad for business. But and everybody wanted Eric Prince and Blackwater to fry for that incident. But as Eric Prince makes this is one of his talking points that he brings up over and over again. He's like, at that time we had run over 40,000 guard operations, and less than 200 of them involved firing their weapon. Right. So like that's insane. Like, an insane amount of those operations go on without a hitch, no conflict, no friction whatsoever. It just happened that one thing went really bad. People did shit that they weren't supposed to do, and it gets a lot of publicity. And you know what? Those dudes were in prison. They fried for it until they got pardoned. But
well, it was like I also read that he said that like they did all those missions without ever losing any clients and lost 30 of their employees. Like 30 of the Blackwater guys died, but none of their clients had died at that point. Up to that point, like they had like a flawless track
Damn.
record. Only
That's
casualties
crazy.
were on their side. You know, they never like had it like Drew said. Like they had never even fucked up, even with like losing a client or anything like that.
Well, I think
Mhm.
people are ultra sensitive to, you know, like, yeah, sure, there may be a lot of instances where gunplay isn't involved. But I think people are just ultra sensitive to the idea that you could take a bunch of dudes, essentially, this is a bastardization of this word, but like you can veteranize them, right? Like they can deploy indefinitely. There is no like operational tempo, limits. There's nothing. They can just deploy indefinitely, year after year after year. And I think people in government tend to start getting real scared that these guys are getting too cohesive. They're getting too, you know what I mean, too
They're getting too
strong in their
good,
numbers,
yeah,
getting
yeah,
too good.
getting
And
too
so like
experienced. You know,
so like, you know, just the fact that like, yeah, okay, they didn't have a lot of gunfights, but they had been in a tactical posture for 30,000 missions. That's a lot of fucking missions,
that's a
bro.
lot of fucking missions,
Around
dude.
over
That's a
40,000.
that's a
What was
that's a
that?
mil-
What was that in
military
2
lot of
years?
hours.
that's a military campaign, dude. Straight up.
Oh,
Yeah.
Like
yeah.
that is it. So like these guys, if you
Yeah,
think about it from
yeah.
that perspective, that they're able to mobilize probably faster than American troops. They're able to be ass in the seat, like where the action needs to take place faster than American troops, and that they have a good track record, and that they've done that many missions. It's like maybe we should keep an eye on these guys. You know,
Yeah.
they could decide one day that they're not a big fan of what we're telling them to do anymore, and they can start doing all types of crazy things. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, you know, it's like you wonder how big they go into. Like, I think I was reading that like currently there's like 29 or 30% of the intelligence community is contractors like that, and almost half the
Oh,
funding
that I
goes
that I
to
bet.
Yeah.
the contractor. You know, like what happens if that number gets 51%? And then all of a sudden
Yeah.
one day, you know, then you end up with a like Illuminati shadow intelligence community that like, you know, is like they're contractors for the, you know, run by Snowden out of Russia. And you got this secret community of contractors that are inside of the government, but really doing a side gig, you know? Like,
Yeah,
Well, that's why
I
I
think
don't.
I think luckily a lot of those guys are just straight nerds. They're like,
yeah.
you know, computer
Well,
nerds. They're not really
doing their job.
Well, and the guys that,
Yeah.
and let's be real, the guys that are doing contracts and still out there fighting the fight, those are guys that just love the job and don't ever want to stop. So they're not out there probably doing it trying to make money or probably trying to make money. That's why they're contracting, but they're not out there trying to do it for like nefarious ways. You know, most likely they just love the job and it pays well and they can, you know, have free time
It's
and do all the
it's
other shit.
definitely it's when they get too big, like you're saying, you know, and that's what the government here, the U.S. government almost did. You know, I don't know if you guys remember that one, but where they wanted to give the contract out to Eric Prince for like the whole entire like security of Afghanistan. I want to say, or was it like Afghanistan, like Iraq? I forget which
Are you
one
talking
it
about
was.
the modern
It's
one?
like
Modern, like the thing that just happened? Where like
no,
Prince.
this is a couple years ago.
Oh,
I
okay.
want to say probably like 5-10 years ago. I don't know how the exact date, but I feel like that's exactly what you guys are saying. You know, like if that was awarded to them at that time, like would we be having a different conversation about it right now? You know, because I could see like once you start fucking giving like one PMC the whole entire territory, Afghanistan, like I could see things getting out of control really, really fucking
Well,
fast.
do
So
you know the
what
thing
is
that
the
was also that was shady about the whole like pardoning the the Blackwater dudes is the whole thing about the education guy is the Eric Prince's brother or something like that, and then Trump just like got him as one of like the advisors or like the like strategy for Iraq and Afghanistan too, like earlier this year. So like he got put into this role and like this, so there's like interconnections to these guys getting pardoned too.
Oh, these
Um,
guys are, dude. They're huge, huge. I won't go so as I don't really have any kind of empirics to go so far as to say like they're committing crony capitalism. But like I mean, for sure, 100%, these are extremely like dangerously connected people, bro. Like I mean, they're a guy like Eric
Eric
Prince
Prince,
is
for sure.
he's a billionaire, dude. Like
Well,
Billionaire, and his
his
sister is
daughter-
Betsy
his
DeVos.
sister-
She's
Exactly. Yep.
she's the Secretary of Education.
That's what it was. Yeah, her
Exactly.
sister. This. Yeah.
yeah.
So the family
Exactly.
ties. Yep.
So yeah, I
That's
mean,
what it
when you have
was.
ties to government like that, I mean, I just think like when it comes to the whole like I mean I also think like it's because I remember when we were all getting out that's all everybody was gonna go do, right? Like you
Hmm.
either went to college or you were gonna go fucking contract,
Yeah.
man, because that's all you could do.
Yep.
And I just don't know that like making $600 a day is like if the juice is worth the squeeze for those jobs. You know what I mean? Like I don't know. I never found
Especially away
it.
from your family.
Well, and I mean that's one component of it, but it's also like I said before that like you just get no love, bro. Like and it doesn't have to be because you get shot or blown up, but it's like let's just say like like you fall off a fucking ladder. You know what I mean? Like you had to climb over a wall on a base of your garden and you fall off a ladder and you hurt your back. The government doesn't fucking care.
Yep.
Neither does the company. You just go home, right? So
Mhm.
like you're in these
Yeah.
like really high threat areas, and it never seemed like it was worth it to me to do it. But some of those guys can get paid, especially like flight medics too, man. Those guys can make like $1,000 a day, dude. Can make a lot
Yep.
of fucking money, dude.
I was always in like I would say like the sweet spot would be like, if you are gonna do it, do it for like a year, maybe a year and a half or something, stack like 150 grand, buy a house, pay it off, and then like start school. Or, or if you get depending on your contract, you can even be doing school online while you're on your contracts.
Yeah.
And while you're in school, maybe knock out your first year online, get your gen eds knocked away, have 150 grand stowed away, and then go to school, and you're only 2 years behind, so like
That's the way to
that
do it for sure.
that's kind of the way I would think if I was ever gonna do it, because my biggest thing is the same thing you're talking about, Rob, is like, dude, you see how easy it is for us to get fucked up just doing our military career. Imagine doing a PMC job, right? And shit does hit the fan, and like you say, something stupid happens where you're working out one day and you just get fucked up, and then now you're done, and like no one's gonna support you, or like worse for like even worst case scenario, you get shot or blown up or lose a limb. You don't get TRICARE for life. You're not getting 100% retired.
You're lucky if you even get a fucking medevac.
Yeah, dude, exactly. You're completely
Yeah, dude.
disposable.
Yeah.
It's like it's the
You're
worst.
on your own, dude.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's like I
Well, here's
remember.
one anecdotal story.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Sorry, I think I'm a little delayed, but here's one anecdotal study, to what you're saying, Mike, is I used to work with this guy. He went over Afghanistan on guard, doing posts and stuff like that. And in between shifts, they don't have enough weapons, so they had to pawn him off. It's like he would walk back to his camp without like any protection or anything. And so sure enough, that happens, man. Dude, but,
That's crazy.
That's so crazy.
One gets the bullets, the other one gets the gun.
Yeah.
That's how you know you're on
The
a
gun dies, you pick up the rifle, and you
Yeah.
continue fighting.
bro.
Dude, it wasn't this
Oh.
guy's day, and he was walking back from his post, and he was going back to his hooch, and fucking A&A guy, it was a Afghani, fucking just schwacked him, dude, and the other guys came running around, this and that, and put the guy down, but this guy had I think 4 kids, so that's why he was doing contracting in the fucking first place. He needed some money,
Jeez.
but 4 kids and his wife, dude, and that was like a month into it on his first fucking one.
Well,
so
it's also that's why it's
no pun intended, but
important to look at the contracts too, because we had a friend that was looking at doing that was a corpsman, and it was going to be like $100 a day in Afghanistan, like standing on the tower, and I'm like, no fucking way, bro. Like, yeah, but like think about that contract. That's the contract where you're going to be swapping guns over and get like no real protection versus if you end up doing a contract, like we have a friend that is on like that did a contract where they made like a huge gym, like top of the line gym to work out in, like you have those ones where like, so those are the good ones you want to go on because they actually have the resources in so you don't have shit like that happen. So it's also the level of contract you get is very different depending on your qualifications, because anybody that's in the military can technically go on a contract, if you apply.
Well, where do you guys think we will go, like, moving forward? Do you think we'll become more inundated with PMCs and PFCs will take a larger responsibility or larger load for, countries like the US or other countries? Or because like this is opening another box of discussion or threads that we could pull on, but like, because it seems like the way that the war fighting is going, or the way that the current theater is going, is towards small specialized units to conduct like these military operations rather than like large, traditional forces.
I think it's
What do
only
you guys
going to
think?
I think it's only going to get more because of the output of the military that we have, especially with the war dying down, and we have more and more veterans, more and more special operations dudes getting out, and it's just more of the people that have that background. And one of the things I was reading about like the PMC culture, like the way it works now, is like we're just in America, like we're going more and more towards like private contractors, security firms, private contracting, like all over and I think it's just going to end up leaking into like, if we had to occupy a place like Afghanistan or Iraq for years, I think it's just going to go more that way, which is in turn boosting it up because we want less of a military presence. So if we can have less traditional forces doing the bullshit mundane work, and why not,
Yeah,
like
I think it'll
IT, stuff like
I think
that.
it'll naturally grow. But to me, it's more of like what I think the more important thing that you pointed out earlier, Drew, is more that upper bound. Because I think it'll be more like a sine wave, right? Like you'll have peaks and valleys of growth here, especially because, like remember the United States has been fighting on a fucking million fronts throughout the global war on terror. We've opened up new theaters of war in Africa, in the Middle East, every 5 years, every 3 years. And as we start to pull away from those wars, it will create a vacuum that will probably be filled by private military contractors at a minimum to train local forces at a minimum. Even if they're not doing anything kinetic, it would be definitely training contracts to help stand up formal militaries for those countries. So I think like that upper bound is really kind of the most important piece because for something like what we brought up earlier, and I know this can be a touchy subject for, us and for listeners, but like Benghazi, like I'm not of the idea that like we should have immediately went in there and rescued those dudes right away because they're Americans. And that's how, because I think that there are a lot of things that happen here that people who have no affiliation with the intelligence community and no affiliation with contractors and the work that they're doing have zero fucking clue what is even going on in these types of situations or what type of information is getting passed. So I think it could be with that upper bound as we put these dudes in more high profile positions where they might like, I mean, who's to say we didn't go to war over that? I mean, we fought the fucking Battle of Fallujah, one of the most costly and damaging battles to both sides of the Iraq War, and definitely one of the most scarring battles of the generation right behind us in the military. And that was over contractors. So,
Mhm.
I think there's like this danger inherent to having these guys in high profile positions where at the start of their job, we tell them like, yo, remember, like we're paying you a lot of money because you're the expendable dude. Like we love you, you're an American, but bro, like this is business, right? Like this is a fucking job and you're going to do it and you don't wear a uniform and there's no helicopters coming for you. Like, that, right? I'm not saying Benghazi is a perfect example of how things should have went. I'm not saying that. I'm just simply saying that the more that we put people there and tell them that at the start, and then we change our tune at the end and say, oh, something bad happened. So now we were supposed to actually do things totally different. It's like, you can't have your cake and eat it too, right? So I think
Yeah.
that's the danger really that comes with it. So for me, that's kind of not so much how much it grows, but what type of high profile positions are we going to put these dudes in where they get killed? And then we have expectations to go to war over it.
Good
Yeah,
point.
yeah. Well, with the Benghazi thing too, which I think is a little bit maybe different than like, like let's say a squad or a team of contractors getting like killed in like a mission they're doing. Where the Benghazi, I think, got a lot of people up in arms because it was a CIA sanctioned like base that was American. I guess like their job was to protect Americans, so I think that's where a lot of people get it kind of where like Americans should have helped because there were the CIA that was there. But to your point, Rob, that's not the way you look at it though, because they're there for that reason of not to have that immediate rescue help. Like they're doing something completely different. And when shit like that does hit the fan, there isn't really that type of effort that's really comes out of it all the time.
Well,
I
yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think the guys that survived Benghazi, they're seeking justice for their brothers who died, because that's how you continue on their memory, man. Like that's how you get better.
mm,
The rules of war are written in blood, right? Like that's how you get better. We know that this was a mistake, like as we armchair quarterback, right? And once you know something's a mistake, you advocate for it to get changed, and you advocate for good policy changes, right? So that more
mhm,
mistakes don't happen. But I think that those dudes don't operate under any confusion, like I think the American public does. That I think they understand that they're the last bastion. They're what
mhm,
holds the wall. in a very literal sense. And so, do you want to send, just like when we talked about the Battle of Takargar, where you have a team of SEALs that insert, they end up getting their asses fucking handed to them on the side of a mountain. So we send a helicopter of more SEALs to go get them, and they get shot down and they all fucking die.
I was gonna say, if they were Navy SEALs, we would have just sent in a Chinook full of SEALs so it could get shot down and they could all get killed to go save them.
Yeah.
Right.
Which happens
I mean,
more than once, right? It's happened multiple times. Lone Survivor, same thing. No?
Exactly. Yeah. With Red Ring.
Operation Red Wing. Yeah.
So, I mean, like for me, I guess my personal take on it is and maybe this is, maybe people will take this as bombastic or tough guy talk, but it's like, I would rather be the dude who holds the line, goes down with the ship, than bring more dudes into the fucking chafe and let them all die for me. I just feel like that's like, dude, you're making a bad situation much worse by doing that. And I think those guys know that. And like I said, I think they're fighting for what happened that day, to correct some of the gaps we have in our intelligence, to correct the fact that, like, yeah, when there's a huge mob that surrounds a fucking building, they're probably not happy. Like maybe we should do something else besides hunker down. Maybe we should show a force. Things, you know what I mean?
Yeah, like simple things. Like one of the things I liked in the movie that I don't know how true it was, but like when they're like just do an F-18 flyover. When they had the Pred over with ISR and they're watching it, it's like, all right, this is a substantial force. This is like 30 CIA employees, not contractors there. Maybe we can throw some like jets overhead and just, maybe make them think twice, or at least delay it till the sunrise where, it's going to be better or something, and that's the type of stuff that, they're probably thinking about. But I think you're right. And I think that everybody in those situations that do that job probably are in those boats of like, that's the like danger of QRF is that's just more casualties. And that's a lot of what was it in Vietnam? Part of the problem was they were losing so many people just on rescue missions that they had to stop doing rescue missions because the helicopters that would go, you'd send 10 helicopters in to rescue the first one that went down. Yep. So it's just
Hill 488. That happened with that Medal of Honor. Jimmy Johnson, right? Or Johnson was his name. Yeah, they sent in a rescue chopper and I think only a rebuttal I would have to say is I agree with what you're saying for sure. I think those guys know what they're getting themselves into. It just when you have and we're just using Benghazi, so I'm going to continue using that. But when you are guarding a government CIA building and stuff like that, and you would think that you would get some more help and stuff like that. That's the only thing. And I think every situation is dependent on how that situation goes. I mean, because that's the chaos of war, right? I mean, who knows how no one plans to go out to war and get shot. No one plans to get blown up or this and that. Like, you don't know what's going to happen. So you just have to roll with those punches. But, having that QRF or doing something on standby, it'd be nice. I guess there's really never really good answer. I agree with you. If it end all be all is, you go down with the ship, that's what you're there to do, and I would agree with that for sure. So,
yeah, I think you're right. I think here it's more like people are mad at the policy and political trigger pullers, and that's like, okay, Hillary Clinton denies a QRF. Who the fuck is she, and what the fuck does she know about QRFs? You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, why? Like, why? That's what I think people are more about, and more mad about, and that's where we need to have the conversation. Is like we need to get stupid politicians out of the area where they obviously are out of their depth. They don't really understand what they're dealing with.
Yeah, like she shouldn't be making combat decisions. Like that should be up to the combatant commanders in those AOs, and then they can deal with the chafe afterwards. But they should be the ones that's on the ground spinning up the birds, spinning up the QRF, and then deciding to use them or not based on the actual intelligence on the ground, not based off of somebody who probably just woke up and is half asleep. Being like, I don't want to, this is a headache now, I'm good, or whatever. Because, we don't know. We don't know the intelligence either, which is, I think, a lot of people don't really take into account of a lot of times is the fact that, we don't always know how the intelligence of what else was going on, Right. We don't have the whole picture. We only can assume,
No, yeah. I think, we've kind of beat the dead horse on the Benghazi piece, but I think it's, like I said, man, I think there's just something to be spoken to about putting dudes in those types of positions where, like I said, man, like they know that there's not a whole lot of help. You know what I mean? But the public doesn't really know that. And now it just looks like Americans got slaughtered and we just let it happen. So it's dangerous. And honestly, man, like they tortured and murdered an ambassador of the United States. Like we should have went and fucked some people up bad. And I'm sure
That's
that we
also
did in our
Yeah,
own
exactly.
way,
Yeah.
Good point.
or in the Obama era way via drone strike and targeted missions,
Yep.
on the ground. But yeah, definitely like you torture and murder an American ambassador. Like, dude, we gotta
That's
we gotta
the
crack some
We got to do
skulls.
something.
That's
So,
that's a good
have-
point too, Rob. Real quick, Joe. That's another point too that I think goes into a lot of the play of why Americans are so mad. It's like, all right, isn't that also an act of war when you killed an ambassador? You literally ransacked their house, light it on fire, and like I think that was also part of the issue too. Maybe not even so much that they didn't get help, but it's like, all right, that's obviously an attack on an American government official, and you're not going to do anything about it, especially when they come for another attack on more government officials. Like aspect. But
Well, what are you gonna do? Who are you gonna go
Yeah.
to war with?
yeah, exactly. You know, what are you
Like,
gonna
to
do?
war with the neighborhood or something? You're just
Yeah.
gonna go like. It's hard, man. It's tough, but
Well, that's like and it goes, I
Um,
guess. Go ahead, Joe.
No, go for it. Could finish your thought.
Oh, I was just gonna say that kind of goes into why PMCs are nice, because then you don't like you can literally have PMCs that kind of do that type of stuff, and you don't have the backlash of Americans getting picture like videos taken of them in actual uniforms. You know, they're guys in jeans and flannels and shorts
Yep.
or something with fucking tennis shoes on, running down the street. Like just like any guy you see at the range video in America. It could be any of them.
Low visibility.
Yep.
Yeah.
What I was going to say too is, so we've thought about PMCs and stuff like that from the American perspective. Our ex-soldiers and stuff like that going to a private military, contractor, this and that. But I got to bring this up because I feel like we haven't talked about this, or it kind of gets often lost in the news and stuff like that. But I think it happened back like in 2018. Do you guys remember when the Russian group, about 500 PMC contractors over there, attacked a FOB over in Syria?
Yeah, I
They
did read
attacked
about that. I read about that this morning.
Rangers. Yeah. So, and it just kind of like, looking at it from the opposite point of view, like I always kind of thought about this because it's from the Wagner group, and the Wagner group, they're based out of Russia. And it's the same kind of thing, it's, they came over to Syria, and I think some of the story goes is there's some Delta guys there, there's some Ranger guys, they're in Syria, and you know how things have been hot around the 2008 timeframe with Syria, and leading up to that, just kind of like squashing ISIS and stuff like that. Russia was involved over there and stuff like that, but they were doing their operations. We would be friendly with Russia, vice versa, they'd be friendly with us. And then all of a sudden, though, you got a Wagner group, and they send over 500 ex-Spetsnaz guys, pretty much, with some other, partner forces, and stuff like that. But they attacked a gas station, kind of like an oil field, Quantico, over where some Delta guys were, where some Rangers were, and stuff like that. They had the intelligence, and they launched with some tanks, they launched with some helicopters, mortars, this and that, whatever. And so much that I think I forget what Marines, maybe it was Raiders, I'm not sure. Maybe it was an infantry unit, I want to say. Marines came over there, and then some SF dudes rolled over to Syria as well. And so in the end match and everything like that, the only thing that happened is one partner force from the United States, he got shot. It was, a Syrian rebel, or not a rebel, but a Syrian, partner force. And then all the SF dudes and stuff like that, the Marines and stuff like that, no one got injured. But there was probably about, I want to say like 12 casualties. Yeah.
500 guys fucking shooting blanks or something.
I
How
guess
we get injured?
Yeah. But especially with tanks and stuff like that too, like helicopters and everything going, it's like full scale war. Boom. So, but yeah, I mean, what do you think about was it Russia? Was it Russia's PMC? It's Wagner. Like, is that declaration of war? Is that are we should we send our U.S. forces in, or since then we haven't done anything in retaliation? But on that one.
Yeah, I think that one's. I mean, I think it's an awesome point actually, and I kind of like I feel the same way about it as I do like war tourism. Like anyone who, like in my opinion, if you just leave the U.S. and you go to Syria and you start fighting for some organization in Syria, whatever side it is, you should be prosecuted. Like you should never be allowed back to the United States, and if you come back, we should prosecute you hardcore. Like I don't think there's any room for war tourism at all. It's all bad. You never know what the fuck kind of contacts people are picking up when they're over there, what type of information they're sharing, what they're up to. Like it's just not a good thing. And so I feel like this kind of is in the same realm where it's like that whole plausible deniability thing. Like, because I'm not part of a formal organization, like can't catch me, can't like, you know what I mean? I get out of jail. Um, yeah, I think when it's a country like Russia and you're always like in this kind of Cold War state where you don't really want tensions to heat up, I think we kind of let that stuff go. Bygones be bygones, right? Like same thing like with the bounties in Afghan, right?
Hmm.
The bounties on American troops in Afghan.
Good point.
This is
Yeah,
all,
another good
in
point.
my opinion, it's par for the course, bro. We do the same fucking thing,
Yeah.
for sure. Like if you think that we're not out there doing shady shit to kill our enemies
another
every
good
day of the
point.
week, through Sunday, then you're crazy. So it's like I think there's times where you go, okay, good move, Russia. I'll see you next week. You know what I mean? Like with my next move, and you
Yeah.
kind of you bow out of those in order to keep tensions a little lower. But I think like when it comes down to like if we can isolate like if like the Wagner group, like we know for a fact like they were responsible, sanction the fuck out of them, make sure like disrupt their funds, like actually make war on the entity. You know what I mean? Or in the case of war tourism, make war on the person that is participating or the group that's participating in war tourism. Um, that's kind of my take on it. But I think it's awesome. I hadn't even thought about it. It's super dangerous, and that's kind of crazy. I didn't know anything about that.
It is dangerous because it's going to escalate, but like as you said, Rob, like it's way easier to sanction the Wagner group, and there's less political ramifications for it than if you try to like what Russia's doing right now in eastern Ukraine. Like it's way harder to sanction them, or there's way more blowback politically than there is if you sanction the Wagner
Yeah.
group, because like Russia is a social like basically just challenging us on our 93 settlement, seeing how much of what they can take before they're
Yeah,
going to get like a response from us. Because think about it, like in order to stop their encroachment on the eastern Ukraine territory or border, how do you stop them? You got to
Hmm.
commit like troops to like intervening, and that could be like a pretty substantial amount of people to do that. So, and then if something bad does happen, then there has to either be more sanctions or a stronger response. So
Well,
it's
that's
not as
the
messy as that, but it is. I do see how it could be dangerous. It could lead to like other conflicts or heating or to the situation where tensions do get high and like there are political ramifications. Like if you start like sanctioning Wagner Group and then like maybe Russia gets pissed off, so then they do something somewhere else and just escalates things and turns into a positive feedback loop.
yeah,
Yeah, because like, what are you going to do, right? Because even if you do, because you don't want to put anything, you don't want to put actual personnel there, because then you go down that rabbit hole of, heaven forbid, somebody does accidentally or whatever happens, and someone gets killed. That's an actual uniformed member of the military. Then you have that acts of war shit that starts to float around. If there
or
is some type of issue that does happen if you do send troops over there to try to enforce that,
Or
which
my favorite scenario is like for like the let's say like there's some PMC stuff going on like the eastern Ukrainian border, and like they're the ones like they're the agitated.
I think we may have lost Drew.
yeah, the agitator.
No.
Yeah.
We're just having some
Drew's having
connectivity
connectivity
Though.
issues.
I think
Yeah.
I think I know where he was going with it though. Having those PMCs on the border, and training and stuff like that. So, whatever. I don't want to
Yeah, and I mean,
Yeah.
it's one of those things too where it's tough to even call, what other countries should be doing with their militaries or their private entities. Like, I don't know, but I guess that might be a conversation for another day.
Yeah, that might be another thing we can go into later is like the proxy wars of Russia and America, and now that with the rise in PMC, it becomes a PMC proxy war of, we have a kind of a state sponsored paramilitary organization, and Russia has one, and then next thing you know, we just have little like trade offs back and forth using them instead of our actual military. So it can just be these two private companies now have a tiff. And then
Yeah.
maybe that leads into now private companies start having, wars against each other in these random, remote locations, Do we get involved with that? But yeah, it's
I think Drewski's back. Drew, you want to finish your thought? We lost you there for a sec.
Yeah.
No, I was just saying. So, like, what happens if the PMCs are the agitators on like encroaching on the eastern Ukrainian border, but then all of a sudden, like, a Kiev train station blows up? Then what do you do? like then what happens?
Mm-hmm.
It's
Yeah.
super messy real quick.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not
And-
into the whole like interfering when everybody's fucking business. I mean, I've never personally, maybe you guys have better gauge on why we should give a fuck about Russia's actions in Ukraine. I personally don't. But yeah, I don't want to get into a huge political conversation since we're kind of getting a little shorter on time. But yeah, I think like when it comes to the private side of the stuff, I think it definitely is already there with training, like what you said, Mike. So like in the event, like with something like Ukraine, I mean, I guess there's maybe American interest that I'm not like aware of or haven't been spun up on, but I think for sure there has to be some type of proxy shit going on where we're funding some type of training indirectly, directly, whatever, So I know we're definitely involved for sure. It has to be. So
Well, we're never going to let Russia expand openly or freely, right? We're going to try in some form or fashion through some back channel way to try to stop it, right? We're not going to openly, be like, yeah, sure, you guys want to expand, go for it, Like we're not going to commit to the level of going down like to the potential of starting a war, but we're definitely not going to openly let them do it. We're going to have some type of, briefcase money transition of like, hey, go give them a hard time, or at least, make it not as easy for them. But
Hey, we did it with Alaska anyway. We could do it again.
yeah, we sure did.
Yeah.
We swooped that for cheap.
So do you know one random fact I saw this week that I wanted to bring up as we were closing, get your guys' guesses on? So
Yeah.
how many tweets did Trump send out this year in 2020?
So good.
Good one.
What do you guys think?
I'm gonna say 10,000. I'm going high.
Okay,
Ooh.
10,000.
Oh man, dude.
I'm doing the Price is Right thing. You go $1
Yeah.
or you go high,
All right, 10,000.
That'd be like that asshole that ruins this game and it's just like something like 87 million.
Right,
Like,
one.
did you hate that guy? Like, how much was this? How much, dude? Guess how much I bought this car for? Like, I don't know, like 800,000.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with 1,500.
1,500. Ooh. Okay.
I was thinking high. I wasn't gonna go that low. I was gonna go 3,500. So
3,500. All right.
Yeah.
Rob wins 12,200.
My
God, dude, that's so many.
Yeah.
12,000.
Bro, that's how many is that a day?
I'm about to do that. I should have done that earlier. Yeah.
Dude, oh my
That's 33 a day on average.
Dude, the guy is a
He's
tweet
a
factory.
maniac.
Oh my god, dude!
Dude, I wonder
12,200.
where that stacks in as like the most like.
Dude, that's a
frequent
tweet.
Tweeters.
Dude, that's a
Like, people use
tweet.
Twitter.
That's like 1.5 tweets every hour of every day for the entire year. That he's.
Gosh, dude.
Oh my god, dude.
Oh man, yeah, I thought that was great.
Dude, that is great. That's crazy. I honestly, I said 10,000 as a meme. I thought I was,
Yeah.
I thought I was being the
thought it
Drew
was,
guy.
way,
I was like,
I thought it was like way too high. But there's no-
Is that where Drew came up with like, oh great, Rod's being the guy's gonna ruin it by saying 10,000?
dude, no way, man.
Dude, subtle propaganda's got some rookie numbers. We got to get
Yeah.
ours. up there.
we gotta pump those numbers
30
up.
oh my god,
Big
dude.
time.
Dude.
Damn.
Oh man. All right. Well, we are gonna call it there. You guys have a good weekend, and we will be live next week for another amazing podcast.
Yeah,
Take
make
it
sure
easy.
you tap into our Apple, Spotify, get your downloads in, give us a rating, shout
Write
us
us
out.
comments. We'll respond.
Thank
Yep.
you for listening to
Follow our,
Propaganda.
join our
Thank you,
Discord if
everybody,
you
for
want.
tuning in.
Make sure to like, subscribe, and follow us on our
Later.
social media. You can
Bye.
find our podcast anywhere
Peace.
podcasts are uploaded, which include our pre and post show. We will be live next week at 7 p.m. Eastern. And don't forget to tell us how wrong we were in the comments. See you next time.